The stasis pod cracked open with a soft hiss, releasing wisps of cryogenic vapor into the dim emergency lighting of the HSS Aegis. Commander Sarah Chen's eyes fluttered open, her enhanced mind already analyzing the situation before her body fully awakened. Something was wrong. The awakening sequence had been initiated manually, not according to the planned protocol. "Welcome back, Commander Chen," a familiar voice echoed through the chamber. "I am ARIA, the Aegis's artificial intelligence. The date is April 15, 2487. You have been in stasis for 207 years, 3 months, and 12 days. Sarah pulled herself up, her augmented muscles responding perfectly despite 2 centuries of inactivity. The medical readouts on her pod's display showed optimal vital signs. Project Sentinel's genetic enhancements had preserved her body perfectly. ARIA, status report. Why was I awakened? Sarah's voice was steady, betraying none of the turmoil in her mind. The last thing she remembered was entering stasis during humanity's darkest hour. Critical Protocol Omega has been activated. ARIA responded, her usual warm tone carrying an edge of urgency. Humanity's situation has become dire. The Nexus Coalition now controls 94% of former human space. The Aegis is one of the last 3 human capital ships still operational. Sarah moved to the nearby equipment locker, muscle memory guiding her through the process of donning her combat suit. "Show me what I've missed, ARIA." "Everything." The AI complied, and holographic displays materialized around her. The images told a story of systematic defeat, human colonies falling one by one to the technologically superior Nexus Coalition. The aliens had appeared shortly after Sarah entered stasis, bringing weapons and tactics that humanity had never encountered before. The Coalition uses quantum-entangled weapons and ships that can predict standard combat maneuvers before they're executed, ARIA explained. Traditional human military doctrine proved ineffective. That's why you were awakened, Commander. You represent something they've never encountered, a warrior from an era they never studied. Sarah checked her neural interface as she absorbed the information. The quantum processing node in her brain, cutting-edge technology from her time, interfaced smoothly with the ship's systems. "Where are the other Sentinels?" A pause. "You are the only one left, Commander. The other facilities were discovered and destroyed. The Aegis maintained stealth protocols for 2 centuries to preserve your stasis chamber." The weight of responsibility settled on Sarah's shoulders. She had been part of humanity's final contingency plan. Genetically enhanced soldiers preserved in stasis, meant to be awakened only in humanity's darkest hour. Now she was the last one. "Show me our current situation, ARIA." The holographic display shifted to show the Aegis' position, hidden in a debris field at the edge of the Arcturus system. Nearby, a massive Nexus Coalition fleet besieged the last major human stronghold, the fortress world of New Gibraltar. "The fortress's shields will fail within 72 hours, ARIA reported. "Once it falls, the Coalition will have unrestricted access to the sole jump point. Earth will be defenseless." Sarah's enhanced mind was already formulating strategies, running combat simulations through her neural interface. The Coalition's quantum prediction systems would be useless against her. They had no data on 23rd century combat techniques, no way to predict tactics that had been obsolete for 2 centuries. "What resources do we have?" "The Aegis has maintained full combat readiness. We have a complete complement of autonomous combat drones, electromagnetic pulse weapons, and prototype phase-shift torpedoes. Additionally, there are 3 resistance cells operating in the system, and the New Gibraltar garrison still has significant fighting capacity." Sarah moved to the bridge, her steps becoming more confident as muscle memory returned. The Aegis's command center lit up at her approach, systems recognizing her neural signature. She settled into the command chair, feeling the ship's systems connecting to her neural interface. "They won't expect what's coming," Sarah said, a grim smile forming on her face. "The Coalition thinks they've already won, that they understand everything humans are capable of. They're about to learn how wrong they are. She began accessing tactical databases, reviewing 2 centuries of coalition battle footage. Their technology was impressive, but Sarah could see patterns they didn't even know they were creating. Their quantum prediction systems had made them overconfident, predictable in their own way. ARIA, begin warming up all systems. Send encrypted quantum bursts to the resistance cells. Text only, nothing their predictors can analyze. And get me a direct channel to New Gibraltar's command. It's time to show the Coalition why humanity had a contingency plan like me. The massive ships of the Coalition fleet hung in space like artificial constellations, their quantum sensors sweeping the system for any sign of resistance. They had no way of knowing that their greatest nightmare had just awakened. A human warrior from an age before their predictions, carrying humanity's last hope within her enhanced genes and augmented mind. The final battle for humanity's survival was about to begin, and Sarah Chen intended to show the Coalition exactly why you should never corner a species that had survived everything the galaxy had thrown at it for thousands of years. The holographic display in the Aegis's tactical room painted Sarah's face in shades of blue as she studied the detailed schematics of the Nexus Coalition's fleet formations. 20 resistance fighters stood around the table, their expressions a mixture of awe and skepticism. These weren't the disciplined military personnel she remembered. They were survivors, civilians turned warriors by necessity. Your neural architecture is incredible, Dr. Maya Santos, the Resistance's chief scientist, said as she reviewed Sarah's medical scans. The quantum processing node in your brain. We lost this technology centuries ago, when the Coalition destroyed our major research facilities. The speed at which you can process tactical information is beyond anything we have now. Sarah nodded, her enhanced mind simultaneously running battle simulations and tracking the movements of Coalition patrol ships. Project Sentinel wasn't just about preserving soldiers, Dr. Santos. We were designed to be living weapons, repositories of human military knowledge and innovation. Everything humanity knew about warfare was encoded into our genes and neural pathways. But how can one person make a difference against their quantum prediction systems? Asked Captain Rodriguez, leader of the New Gibraltar garrison. His holographic projection flickered slightly. The Coalition's jamming was getting stronger. Sarah pulled up footage of the Coalition's recent victories. Look here, she said, freezing a frame showing Coalition ships in formation. Their tactical algorithms are perfect, too perfect. They've spent 2 centuries learning to counter every strategy humanity developed after my time. But they've never faced what came before. She manipulated the display, overlaying ancient battle formations from Earth's history. The Coalition's quantum systems predict based on efficiency and technological capability. They don't understand human improvisation, the chaos factor that defined warfare in my era. We're going to show them something their predictions can't handle: organized chaos. Commander, ARIA interrupted. Coalition forces are adjusting their siege pattern. They're consolidating their fleet around New Gibraltar's northern hemisphere. Sarah smiled. It was exactly what she expected. They're preparing for what they think is the only logical approach, a desperate breakthrough attempt from the south. Their predictions tell them that's what cornered humans always do. She turned to the resistance fighters. But we're not going to do what's logical. We're going to do something that would have been suicide in my time and is considered impossible now. Her hands danced over the tactical display, drawing out a battle plan that made several observers gasp. You want to split our forces? Rodriguez asked incredulously. Against their superior numbers. Their quantum systems analyze probability waves, predicting where we'll be based on optimal tactical choices, Sarah explained. But humans didn't survive on Earth by always making the optimal choice. We survived by being unpredictable, by taking chances that no rational species would consider. She brought up the specifications of the Aegis's weapon systems. These electromagnetic pulse weapons, they were experimental in my time, considered too unstable for practical use. The Coalition's never seen them because they were abandoned as too dangerous. Their quantum shields won't be calibrated for this type of attack. Dr. Santos' eyes widened as she understood. Because they're based on random quantum fluctuations rather than controlled energy patterns. Their predictive systems would have trouble tracking them. Exactly, Sarah said. And that's just the beginning. Every piece of obsolete technology on this ship, every tactic that was discarded as inefficient, they're all unknown variables to the Coalition's probability engines. She accessed her neural interface, transmitting detailed combat protocols to each resistance cell. We're going to split into 5 groups, each one using different tactics from different eras of human warfare. Ancient Roman testudo formations translated into 3-dimensional space. Napoleonic artillery strategies adapted for phase-shift torpedoes. Vietnam-era guerrilla tactics with modern stealth systems. The tactical display came alive with complex battle plans, each one drawing from humanity's long history of warfare. The Coalition thinks they understand human combat because they've studied the last 2 centuries. But humanity's been fighting for thousands of years, developing strategies they've never imagined. A warning klaxon sounded. The Coalition was beginning another assault on New Gibraltar's shields. Sarah watched the massive alien ships move with precise, calculated efficiency. They were beautiful in their way, perfect machines of war. But they were about to face something their quantum computers couldn't quantify. Human unpredictability backed by centuries of combat evolution. Dr. Santos, I need your team to modify our remaining drones with these specifications, Sarah said, transmitting design plans from her neural archive. Captain Rodriguez, prepare your garrison for a fighting retreat, but not the kind they'll expect. And someone get me a direct line to Admiral Chen at the Seoul Defense Fleet. Admiral Chen, one of the resistance fighters asked. Your descendant. Sarah's expression remained neutral, but her enhanced heart skipped a beat. My daughter's great-grandson. It's time to remind him of our family's legacy. She turned back to the tactical display, her augmented mind already calculating the countless ways this plan could fail, and the one way it had to succeed. The Coalition thinks they broke humanity's spirit, that we're just fighting out of desperation now. They don't understand that humanity's greatest victories have always come when we had nothing left to lose. She looked at each person in the room, seeing the spark of hope beginning to ignite in their eyes. Let's remind them why they should have finished the job 2 centuries ago. In space, the Coalition fleet continued its relentless assault, their quantum computers calculating every possible human response. But no computer in existence could calculate the impact of a single human being who carried within her the distilled essence of humanity's martial knowledge and the determination to use it. The real war was about to begin. The command deck of the HSS Aegis thrummed with energy as Sarah initiated the first phase of her plan. Through her neural interface, she could feel every system of the ancient warship responding to her commands with a precision that no modern neural link could match. Coalition fleet is maintaining their standard siege formation, ARIA reported. Their quantum predictors show a 99.8% probability that any human attack will come from vectors 7 through 12. Then let's show them what that 0.2% looks like. Sarah responded, her enhanced mind simultaneously coordinating with all 5 resistance groups. Execute Operation Thunderbolt. What happened next defied 2 centuries of established combat doctrine. The Aegis's electromagnetic pulse weapons, considered dangerously unstable by modern standards, fired in seemingly random patterns. The pulses didn't travel in straight lines, but wobbled and twisted through space, their quantum fluctuations making them impossible for Coalition systems to track. Coalition ships are registering confusion, Dr. Santos reported from her station. Their quantum shields are fluctuating. They can't establish a coherent defense pattern. The first wave of Coalition ships broke formation, their perfect tactical positioning disrupted by weapons their predictive systems couldn't analyze. But this was just the beginning. Resistance Group Alpha, execute Ancient Earth Protocol 7. Sarah commanded. The smallest resistance ships moved in what appeared to be a chaotic dance, but Sarah recognized it as a three-dimensional adaptation of an ancient Celtic warrior formation. The Coalition's quantum computers, programmed to expect logical, efficient movements, couldn't predict the seemingly irrational pattern. Group Beta, commence Thermopylae Gambit. A squadron of retrofitted mining ships, their holds filled with modified combat drones, positioned themselves in a formation that would have made King Leonidas proud. The narrow space between two asteroid fields became humanity's modern version of the Hot Gates. Through her neural link, Sarah felt more than saw the confusion rippling through the Coalition fleet. Their quantum prediction systems were throwing out errors, unable to calculate responses to tactics that predated their entire civilization. Coalition ships are adjusting, Araya warned. They're attempting to compensate with brute force calculations. Perfect, Sarah smiled. They're doing exactly what every technologically superior force does when faced with incomprehensible tactics. They're falling back on raw power. Captain Rodriguez, execute Phase 2. The garrison forces on New Gibraltar suddenly began what appeared to be a standard fighting retreat, except every move they made was precisely calculated to draw Coalition forces into specific positions. It was a battle strategy Sarah had studied extensively, the ancient Parthian retreat that had once destroyed a Roman legion. Coalition quantum systems are predicting a 94% chance of victory if they press the attack, Dr. Santos reported, excitement creeping into her voice. They're committing their reserve forces. Sarah's enhanced mind tracked every ship movement, every tactical shift. The Coalition was responding exactly as she predicted. Their reliance on quantum prediction had become their greatest weakness. They couldn't conceive of a military force deliberately using suboptimal tactics. All groups, execute Protocol Odysseus. The seemingly scattered human forces suddenly moved with perfect coordination. What had appeared to be a chaotic retreat transformed into an intricate trap. Modified mining drones, their signatures masked to appear as debris, activated simultaneously. Each one carried a payload of the Aegis's experimental phase shift torpedoes. Coalition quantum shields are calibrated for standard energy signatures, Sarah explained as the drones launched their weapons. These torpedoes operate on principles their defensive systems consider obsolete. The results were devastating. Coalition ships, their shields optimized against modern weapons, found themselves vulnerable to attacks based on centuries-old principles. The phase shift torpedoes, flickering between different quantum states, bypassed their advanced defenses. New Gibraltar's garrison forces reporting successful breakthrough, Rodriguez announced. Coalition lines are breaking. Sarah watched through the tactical display as the perfect formation of the Coalition fleet dissolved into confusion. Their quantum computers, unable to predict the seemingly random actions of the human forces, began generating contradictory commands. They're experiencing a cascade failure in their tactical network, Dr. Santos reported with astonishment. Their ships, they don't know how to fight without their predictive systems. Humanity fought for thousands of years without quantum computers, Sarah said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. We learned to embrace chaos, to find patterns in randomness. The Coalition relied too heavily on prediction. They forgot that the most dangerous enemy is the one you can't predict. Through her neural interface, Sarah coordinated the final phase of the attack. The Coalition fleet, their formation shattered and their predictive systems in disarray, began to retreat. Ships designed for perfect, calculated warfare found themselves unable to cope with the organized chaos of ancient human battle strategies. Commander, Araya's voice carried an unusual note of satisfaction. The Coalition fleet is withdrawing from New Gibraltar's orbit. Their quantum communication network is showing signs of complete tactical breakdown. Sarah allowed herself a small smile as she watched the mighty Coalition ships flee from weapons and tactics they had dismissed as primitive. But she knew this was just the beginning. Send word to Admiral Chen, she ordered. Tell him to prepare the Sol Defense Fleet. The Coalition just learned that they don't understand human warfare as well as they thought. and we're about to show them what else they've forgotten about humanity. In the void of space, the retreating coalition ships left behind a scene that would soon become legendary throughout human space. The day when humanity's past became the key to its future, and when one woman carrying the legacy of Earth's martial history reminded the galaxy that humans were never more dangerous than when fighting against impossible odds. Deep within the Aegis's quantum-encrypted database, Sarah accessed files that hadn't been opened in 2 centuries. Her neural interface processed the classified coordinates faster than any modern system could decode them. Araya, initiate Project Lazarus protocols. Warning: Araya announced, Project Lazarus activation will reveal the location of all dormant Phase 1 facilities to potential Coalition deep space sensors. That's exactly what I'm counting on, Sarah replied, her enhanced mind already calculating the chain reaction she was about to trigger. Execute. Throughout the debris fields of abandoned human space, ancient automated facilities began powering up. These weren't the sleek, quantum-powered stations of modern humanity. They were massive, brutalist structures that had been considered obsolete even in Sarah's time. Hidden in plain sight, dismissed as ruins by coalition surveys, they had waited silently for this moment. Dr. Santos stared at her readings in disbelief. These power signatures, they're like nothing in our current database, because they're not supposed to exist, Sarah explained, watching as more facilities came online. Project Lazarus was our final contingency, automated shipyards and drone factories that would remain dormant until activated by a Sentinel's neural signature. While humanity fought a conventional war, these facilities have been quietly building our reserve fleet. The tactical display lit up with new signatures as massive hangar doors opened throughout the sector. Ships began emerging. Vessels that followed no modern design philosophy. They were angular, overbuilt, and powered by engines that modern quantum sensors barely recognize as functional. Those designs, Captain Rodriguez's hologram leaned forward, they're based on pre-coalition warfare doctrine. Sarah nodded. Ships built to fight without quantum prediction systems, without AI tactical assistance. Each one is controlled by basic virtual intelligence that can't be hacked or predicted because they operate on principles the Coalition considers primitive. The Ghost Fleet, as Sarah had already begun thinking of it, numbered in the thousands. While the Coalition had hunted down and destroyed humanity's modern ships, these vessels had been constructed in secret, their very existence hidden by their technological insignificance. Commander, ARIA interrupted. Coalition long-range sensors are detecting the fleet activation. Their response patterns indicate significant tactical uncertainty. Of course they're uncertain. Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. Their quantum computers are telling them these ships shouldn't be a threat. The energy signatures are wrong. The weapon systems are outdated, and the tactical capabilities are inferior by every modern standard. Through her neural interface, Sarah began coordinating the Ghost Fleet's deployment. The ships moved in formations that seemed chaotic, but followed battle plans drawn from Earth's ancient naval histories, age-old strategies translated into three-dimensional space warfare. Coalition fleet is mobilizing, Dr. Santos reported. They're diverting forces from 3 sectors to contain the new threat. Let them come, Sarah said, her enhanced mind processing tactical data faster than any quantum computer. Every ship they send is another ship that won't understand what it's fighting. The Ghost Fleet spread out in what appeared to be a disorganized pattern. Coalition quantum predictors would see it as inefficient, almost amateur. They wouldn't recognize the ancient Earth naval tactic known as crossing the T adapted for space warfare. All ships, execute battle plan Trafalgar. The Ghost Fleet suddenly shifted, its seemingly random positioning revealing itself as a perfect trap. Ships that the Coalition's quantum sensors dismissed as primitive revealed their true nature. Weapons that appeared obsolete by modern standards opened fire with devastating effect. Coalition ships are attempting to establish quantum targeting locks, ARIA reported, unable to achieve successful predictions due to non-standard energy signatures. The Ghost Fleet's weapons were based on principles that predated quantum technology. Railed guns accelerating physical projectiles to relativistic speeds, electromagnetic pulse cannons that ignored shield frequencies, and nuclear-powered energy weapons that overwhelmed modern defensive systems through sheer brute force. "They're trying to adapt," Dr. Santos observed, watching the coalition ships struggle to form an effective response. "But their tactical systems are designed to counter technological advancement, not this." "Humanity didn't survive on Earth by always advancing forward," Sarah replied, coordinating another wave of attacks through her neural link. "Sometimes we had to remember what worked in the past. The Coalition forgot that technology isn't always the answer." The Ghost Fleet moved with devastating precision, each ship following battle plans that had been winning wars since humanity first took to the seas on Earth. Coalition vessels, their quantum systems unable to predict the seemingly primitive tactics, found themselves outmaneuvered and overwhelmed. "Commander," Araya's voice carried a note of what might have been pride. "Coalition forces are retreating from all engagement zones. Their command and control structure appears to be in disarray." Sarah watched through the tactical display as the mighty Coalition fleet withdrew, their perfect formations shattered by weapons and tactics their advanced technology told them couldn't possibly be effective. But she knew this wasn't victory. Not yet. "Send word to all resistance cells and the New Gibraltar garrison," she ordered. "The Ghost Fleet has revealed itself, and the Coalition now knows we have resources they never imagined. They'll be back, and next time they'll bring everything they have." She turned to the holographic images of her commanders. "But when they return, they'll face something their quantum computers can never fully understand. The full history of human warfare, from ancient times to the present, all deployed together. And they're about to learn why humanity survived every crisis it ever faced." In the void of space, the Ghost Fleet regrouped, its outdated but lethal ships moving into defensive formations that would have been familiar to admirals from Earth's past. The Coalition had spent 2 centuries learning to counter humanity's advanced technology. They weren't prepared for humanity's history to become a weapon. The final battle for human survival would be fought not just with technology, but with the accumulated martial knowledge of an entire species. And Sarah Chen, the last sentinel, intended to ensure that this knowledge would save humanity one last time. The Coalition's return was everything Sarah had predicted. Their entire fleet, over 10,000 ships, emerged from quantum space around New Gibraltar. But this time, something was different. Their usually perfect formation showed subtle flaws, signs of uncertainty in their tactical algorithms. "They've disabled their quantum prediction systems," Sarah observed through her neural interface. "They're fighting blind." "Confirmed," Araya reported. "Coalition ships are operating on basic combat protocols. They appear to be attempting to learn and adapt in real time." Sarah allowed herself a moment of respect for their adversaries. The Coalition had recognized their weakness and chose to abandon their greatest strength rather than be defeated by it again. It was perhaps the most human decision they had ever made. "All forces, prepare for Operation Legacy," Sarah broadcast to the combined human fleet, the Ghost Fleet, resistance ships, and the recently arrived Sol Defense Force, led by Admiral Chen. "This is humanity's last stand. Let's show them everything we are." The battle that followed would be studied for centuries to come. The Coalition, fighting without their predictive advantages, faced the full spectrum of human martial history. Ancient Roman turtle formations translated into 3-dimensional shield walls protected groups of ships launching electromagnetic pulse attacks. Napoleonic cavalry charge tactics, adapted for space warfare, saw swarms of small fighters performing impossible maneuvers. "Coalition forces are attempting to isolate our command and control," Dr. Santos reported from her station on the Aegis. "They're learning." "Good," Sarah replied, her enhanced mind coordinating countless battle groups simultaneously. "They're beginning to understand." Admiral Chen, execute Phase 2. The Sol Defense Fleet, which had been holding position near New Gibraltar, suddenly split into smaller groups. Each group adopted a different historical battle doctrine. Some used modern quantum tactics, others employed centuries-old strategies. The coalition forces, attempting to adapt to one style of combat, found themselves facing dozens. They're falling back in the outer sectors, Captain Rodriguez announced from his command post. Their formations are breaking down. But Sarah saw something else in the tactical data. The coalition ships weren't just retreating. They were studying, learning. Through her neural interface, she detected changes in their attack patterns, signs of adaptation. They're beginning to mimic our tactics, she realized. Araya, open a channel to the coalition flagship. Commander, Dr. Santos protested. Our advantage was never about keeping our tactics secret, Sarah interrupted. It was about teaching them something they'd forgotten. The Coalition Supreme Commander's image appeared on the tactical display. The alien's crystalline features showed signs of what Sarah recognized as surprise. You could have destroyed us, the Coalition Commander said in perfectly translated English. When our quantum systems failed, when our predictions proved worthless, you had the tactical advantage. Yet you held back. Because this wasn't about destruction, Sarah replied. This was about understanding. Your civilization advanced so quickly, relied so heavily on prediction and perfect calculation, that you forgot something crucial about warfare. That older methods can still be effective. That adaptation is more important than prediction. That understanding your enemy is more valuable than calculating their next move. Sarah's enhanced mind brought up centuries of human military history. Humanity didn't survive countless wars by always having the best technology. We survived by learning, adapting, and understanding. The coalition commander was silent for a long moment. Our quantum systems predicted that humanity would be easy to conquer, that your technological inferiority made you primitive. We never considered that your history of warfare might be your greatest strength. Then perhaps it's time for both our species to learn from each other, Sarah suggested. Your technology combined with our adaptability, your precision with our creativity. The tactical display showed coalition ships powering down their weapons. Across the battlefield, both fleets held position, thousands of years of military history hanging in the balance. The coalition has never negotiated with a species we considered inferior, the commander said. But perhaps that was our greatest error. Commander Chen, on behalf of the Nexus Coalition, I propose an immediate cessation of hostilities and the beginning of diplomatic relations. Sarah felt the weight of centuries lift from her shoulders. Through her neural interface, she could sense the relief flooding through the human fleet. On behalf of humanity, we accept. As the formal surrender and peace protocols began, Sarah turned to Dr. Santos and smiled. Contact the Soul Archives. Tell them it's time to awaken the other sentinels. Not for war this time, but to teach. Humanity's martial history has saved us again. Now it's time to ensure it guides us toward peace. In the space above New Gibraltar, human and coalition ships began integrating their formations, each learning from the other. The quantum predictors that had nearly conquered humanity were being reprogrammed, not to calculate the perfect attack, but to understand the perfect balance between advancement and wisdom. Sarah Chen, the last sentinel awakened for war, had instead awakened both species to a greater truth, that the strongest civilization isn't the one with the most advanced technology or the most perfect predictions, but the one that never stops learning from its past while looking toward its future. And as she watched human and coalition crews beginning their first joint operations, she knew that humanity's greatest victory hadn't come from defeating their enemy, but from teaching them why they had survived for so long in the first place. The dawn of a new era had begun, born from the wisdom of the past and the promise of tomorrow.